In a world ruled by appearance, goodness is often a mask.
Welcome, friends, to a realm where shadows dance with light. Welcome to our deep dive into the dark side of goodness, inspired by the teachings of Machiavelli. Now, before you recoil at that name, understand this. The world is not a fairy tale. It is a crucible, a testing ground where naive idealism often crumbles before the weight of reality. In this video, we'll explore why being good isn't always enough and how strategic morality can lead to true success. We're not advocating for malice or cruelty, but for a pragmatic understanding of human nature, the kind that allows you to navigate life's complexities without being crushed by them. Get ready to challenge your assumptions, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to emerge with a more nuanced understanding of the world and your place in it. There's a pervasive myth in our culture. Be good and good things will happen. Be kind, be selfless, and the world will reward you. But what about when it doesn't, when you're overlooked, exploited, or trampled? Kindness is not a guarantee of success. It can be a liability. Think about it. How often are good-hearted people taken advantage of, passed over for promotion, manipulated in relationships? This isn't cynicism. This is reality. The world does not always reward virtue. It rewards those who play strategically, even ruthlessly. We're told to stand up for what we believe in, to fight for justice, to always do the right thing. But what happens when doing the right thing leaves you feeling empty or worse off? This is the paradox of morality, that sometimes the most ethical path leads to the most pain. Think of the whistleblower risking their career to expose corruption only to be ostracized, or the honest employee passed over for promotion. The problem is not with morality itself, but with the naive assumption that the world will reward it. We expect fairness, but the world operates on a different axis, one where power and self-interest often trump ethics. This is not to say we should abandon our principles, but understand that morality without strategy is like a sword without a hilt. We are, from a young age, fed a steady diet of moral platitudes. Honesty is the best policy. Good things happen to good people. Turn the other cheek. These are not inherently bad principles, but they are often presented as universal truths, guarantees of a just and predictable world. And this, my friends, is the false promise of morality. The world does not operate on a system of guaranteed rewards for good behavior. It operates on the principles of power, influence, and often sheer opportunism. To believe otherwise is to set yourself up for disappointment, exploitation, and a profound sense of disillusionment when reality inevitably intrudes. This is not to say that morality is meaningless. It provides a framework for social cohesion, for cooperation, for the very possibility of a civilized society. But it is not a magic spell that wards off misfortune or guarantees success. Let's be brutally honest. The world is not a level playing field. It is an arena where individuals and groups are constantly vying for power, resources, and influence. And in this arena, those who succeed are not necessarily the most moral, but the most adaptable, the most strategic, and yes, sometimes the most ruthless. Think of any successful individual or organization. Do they achieve their position through sheer goodness alone? Or do they understand the importance of leverage, of negotiation, of playing the game to their advantage? This is not a call to abandon your ethics. It is a call to recognize that success requires more than just good intentions. It demands an understanding of the rules, both written and unwritten, that govern human interaction. It requires the ability to anticipate your opponent's moves, to protect your own interests, and to make difficult decisions when necessary. Machiavelli, often demonized as a proponent of evil, was in reality a keen observer of human nature. He saw humanity not through the rose-tinted glasses of idealism, but as it truly is, capable of great love and horrifying cruelty, often driven by self-interest, ambition, and fear. This, my friends, is the uncomfortable truth that many refuse to acknowledge. We want to believe in the inherent goodness of humanity, but we are often confronted with evidence to the contrary. We see it in the daily news, in the cutthroat world of business, even in our own personal relationships. To deny this darker side of human nature is to make ourselves vulnerable to manipulation and exploitation. It is to cling to a childlike view of the world that leaves us ill-equipped to navigate its complexities. Machiavelli understood this. He recognized that to survive and thrive in this world, one must understand the true nature of the game. We must be aware of the potential for both good and evil within ourselves and others. We must be willing to protect our own interests, even if it means making difficult or unpopular choices. Imagine a kind-hearted ruler leading with compassion and generosity, a noble goal, you might say. But what happens when this generosity is mistaken for weakness, when neighboring kingdoms see an opportunity to exploit this perceived vulnerability? This is the danger of virtue without strategy. It becomes a weakness to be exploited, a liability that can lead to downfall. Machiavelli argued that a ruler, a leader, must be both a lion and a fox, capable of ferocious defense when necessary, but also cunning, adaptable, and willing to use strategy to maintain power and security. This principle applies not just to rulers, but to all of us. We must be both good and wise, ethical and strategic. We must cultivate our capacity for compassion, but also our ability to protect ourselves from those who would take advantage of it. There's a particular naivety that can be crippling, a belief that everyone plays by the same rules of fairness and decency, but the world is full of individuals and groups who are more than willing to exploit this naivety for their own gain. Think of those who fall prey to scams, who trust blindly in the promises of charismatic manipulators. They are often operating from a place of good faith, believing that others share their same moral compass. This is the cost of blind morality. It leaves us vulnerable to those who operate without conscience, who see kindness as weakness and exploit it for their own gain. Machiavelli understood that to navigate this world effectively, we must be as wise as serpents, even as we strive to be as harmless as doves. We must be able to recognize the signs of manipulation, to set boundaries, and to protect ourselves from those who would exploit our good nature. Think about the inherently good people you know, the ones who go out of their way to help, who trust easily, who always try to see the best in others. Now, consider, are these the same people who often find themselves taken advantage of? The ones who are overlooked, manipulated, or left feeling used and depleted? There's a tragic irony here. The very qualities that make these individuals good, their empathy, their willingness to believe the best, their aversion to conflict, often become the tools of their own exploitation. They assume that others operate from the same moral framework, that everyone values fairness and reciprocity. But this assumption, while noble, can be a recipe for disaster. The world is full of individuals who are more than willing to exploit kindness, who see empathy as weakness, and who view trust as an opportunity for manipulation. Now, let me be clear, Machiavelli was not advocating for a life devoid of virtue. He wasn't saying, become a heartless monster and trample over everyone in your path. He was, however, a pragmatist. He understood that goodness, in its naive and unexamined form, could be a liability. He differentiated between what we might call naive goodness and intelligent kindness. Naive goodness acts without considering the potential consequences, blindly assuming the best of others. This is the goodness that gets exploited, that leads to resentment and disillusionment. Intelligent kindness, on the other hand, is strategic. It understands that not everyone deserves your trust or compassion. It's about being discerning, about choosing when and where to extend your hand and when to hold your ground. Machiavelli also warned against the dangers of being an open book. Leaders who are too transparent often lose power and influence. He argued that maintaining a degree of mystery and unpredictability is crucial for sustaining authority. When you reveal too much, you give others the ammunition they need to undermine you. Transparency, while often lauded as a virtue, can be a double-edged sword. It can expose your weaknesses, your fears, and your strategies. Machiavelli believed that a wise leader knows when to hold back, to keep certain cards close to the chest. This isn't about deceit, it's about strategic discretion. In a world where information is power, controlling what you reveal and what you conceal can be the difference between maintaining your position and being overthrown. It's about creating an aura of unpredictability, making it difficult for adversaries to anticipate your moves. This calculated ambiguity can be a powerful tool in navigating the complex landscape of leadership and power dynamics. The most powerful individuals know how to manage perception, control information, and remain unreadable to others. Machiavelli emphasized the importance of strategic leadership, where the ability to manipulate how others see you can be your greatest asset. He believed that a leader should be like a chameleon, adapting to the circumstances and the people they are dealing with while never fully revealing their true intentions. This doesn't mean being dishonest, but rather being shrewd and calculating. By controlling the narrative around you, you can influence how others react and respond. This level of control requires a deep understanding of human nature and the dynamics of power. Being a strategic leader means knowing when to show strength and when to show vulnerability, when to be transparent and when to be enigmatic. It's about mastering the art of perception, ensuring that you're always one step ahead of those who might seek to undermine you. This calculated approach to leadership is what separates the truly powerful from the merely competent. The world doesn't adjust to your morals. You must adapt to how things really work if you want to stop being taken advantage of. Machiavelli's philosophy is a stark reminder that the world operates on its own set of rules, often indifferent to individual ideals and moral codes. He believed that those who cling too rigidly to their principles are often the first to be exploited by those who understand and manipulate the true mechanics of power. In a perfect world, honesty, kindness, and integrity would always be rewarded. But in reality, these virtues can sometimes be perceived as weaknesses, inviting manipulation and betrayal. Machiavelli argued that a successful leader must recognize the difference between how the world ought to be and how it actually is. This means sometimes setting aside idealistic morals in favor of pragmatic decisions that ensure survival and success. By understanding and adapting to the real rules of the game rather than idealistic ones, you can protect yourself from being taken advantage of and navigate the complexities of power with greater efficacy. This doesn't mean abandoning your values entirely, but rather knowing when to be flexible and strategic in their application. In a world that often rewards cunning over kindness, it's crucial to balance morality with practicality, ensuring that you are not only good, but also wise. By adopting a Machiavellian mindset, you move from being a pawn in the system to becoming a player who shapes it. Machiavelli's teachings provide a roadmap for transforming from a passive participant into an active shaper of your destiny. Understanding the underlying mechanics of power allows you to recognize when you're being manipulated and equips you with strategies to counteract it. This doesn't mean becoming ruthless or abandoning your values. Rather, it's about being astutely aware of the dynamics at play and leveraging them to your advantage. By shifting your perspective from victim to strategist, you gain the ability to navigate complex social and political landscapes with finesse, ensuring that your actions lead to desired outcomes rather than unintended consequences. Embrace the mindset of a strategist, and you'll find that you can transform situations that once seemed insurmountable into opportunities for growth and success. In the end, the true power lies not in blindly adhering to ideals, but in knowing how to strategically apply them to shape your world. The art of strategic distance. Being too available diminishes your value. Sometimes absence and scarcity create more power than constant presence. Machiavelli understood the importance of maintaining a strategic distance. He knew that perpetual availability can lead to a loss of respect and influence. By being selectively present, you create an aura of mystery and importance. People value what they perceive as rare and hard to get. This principle is not about playing hard to get, but rather about preserving your energy and focusing it where it can have the greatest impact. When you are always available, you risk being taken for granted and losing your strategic advantage. Instead, by carefully managing your presence, you can ensure that your actions carry weight and significance. Embrace the art of strategic distance, and you'll find that your influence grows, not by always being there, but by being there when it truly matters. Many believe that always being present builds power, but in reality, constant accessibility leads to being overlooked. The idea of omnipresence is appealing. It suggests that by being everywhere, you can control everything and everyone. However, this is a dangerous illusion. Machiavelli understood that perpetual visibility can dilute your influence. When you're always available, people begin to take you for granted. Instead of commanding respect and admiration, you become a predictable fixture easily ignored. True power lies in strategic absence. By not always being present, you create a sense of scarcity and importance. Your actions and words carry more weight when they are not constant and expected. This doesn't mean you should be aloof or unattainable, but rather that you should be deliberate in your presence. Embrace the power of selective visibility, and you will find that your influence grows not through constant exposure, but through thoughtful and impactful appearances. Just like rare items are more valuable, people who are less accessible often command more respect and attention. Think about the allure of a rare gem or a limited edition piece of art. Their value is not just in their beauty, but in their scarcity. The same principle applies to human interactions. When you make yourself less accessible, you become more desirable. Time, your presence, and your words carry more weight. People start to value your input more, knowing that it's not something they can get anytime they want. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself completely. Rather, it means being strategic about when and how you make yourself available. Use your scarcity to build influence, to create a sense of importance around your presence. By doing so, you not only command more respect, but also create a lasting impact that goes beyond mere visibility. Machiavelli warned against being too familiar. Overexposure can erode respect in leadership and in personal life. When people see too much of you, they start to take you for granted. Your presence, once commanding and influential, becomes ordinary and predictable. This erosion of respect is not just limited to leaders. It applies to relationships, friendships, and even professional environments. Familiarity breeds contempt, a saying that holds much truth. By maintaining a strategic distance, you keep an air of mystery and importance. People will respect you more when they know they can't have access to you at all times. It's a delicate balance, but one that can make a significant difference in how you are perceived and how much influence you wield. Generosity and availability, if given without limits, lead people to take you for granted. Distance protects your value. Machiavelli understood that unrestricted access diminishes perceived worth. When you are always available, your presence becomes less special, less impactful. The key lies in selective availability, knowing when to be present and when to withdraw. This isn't about playing games. It's about maintaining your influence and ensuring that your contributions are truly valued. By setting boundaries, you create a sense of scarcity, which in turn enhances your authority and respect. People are more likely to appreciate and respect what they cannot easily obtain in every aspect of life. From leadership to personal relationships, boundaries are essential for preserving your value and maintaining respect. In a world that often values utility over humanity, it's easy to fall into the trap of being a resource. someone who is always there to help, always willing to give. But Machiavelli teaches us that this is a dangerous position to be in. If you give too much, you're seen as a tool, not a person. Your true value gets overshadowed by your availability. Strategic restraint elevates your worth in others' eyes. By being selective in how and when you offer your time and resources, you shift from being a mere convenience to a person of real value. This doesn't mean you should be unkind or unhelpful, but rather you should be strategic about your generosity. Machiavelli understood that the key to maintaining influence and respect lies in knowing when to say no. It's about creating a balance where your contributions are appreciated, not expected. When you are no longer just a resource, you become a person whose presence is valued, whose opinions are sought, and whose actions carry weight. So stop being a resource and start being a person of value. This is perhaps Machiavelli's most profound and often misunderstood lesson, that morality should not be a rigid set of rules, but a tool to be wielded with wisdom and precision. He argued that a ruler, a leader, must be willing to be both loved and feared, to embrace morality when it served the greater good, but to set it aside when necessary for the safety and stability of the state. This might seem like a dangerous proposition, an endorsement of hypocrisy, and indeed, in the wrong hands, it can be. But Machiavelli's point was this: the world is complex, messy, and often unforgiving. To cling to a rigid moral code in all circumstances is to blind yourself to the nuances of human behavior, to the reality of power dynamics, and to the very real consequences of naive idealism. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into philosophy and human nature. We've explored some uncomfortable truths about the world and ourselves, truths that challenge the simplistic narratives we're often fed about the inherent goodness of humanity. Let us know in the comments how you balance goodness and strategy in your own life.